a political nerd in San Diego, this weekend is our Super Bowl. And if you want to be in the political know, it's your chance to dive in headfirst. I'm talking, of course, about Politifest. Voice of San Diego brings together our county's elected officials to debate and dispute the major issues, answering directly to the populace. I'm moderating a conversation on Prop 50, and there are sessions about homelessness, the sewage crisis, everything we saturate your airwaves with day after day. And this year, you get a say. Voice of San Diego editor-in-chief Scott Lewis is here with me. So the theme this year is Solutions Showdown.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Well, we didn't want to do the normal sort of panels and discussions and such. We wanted to shake it up. And so the idea was force everybody to present a solution to the problem and then let the audience online and in person vote on it. And I hope it works. It's an interesting test.
Why was this the year you wanted to try that?
Every other year when there's not an election, we have to kind of figure out a theme. Usually it's about a topic like housing or something. And this year we decided to just shake up this solutions. There are a lot of problems in San Diego. People get a little down just hearing about all the problems, but solutions provide hope. So we wanted to leave people with a little hope.
Showdown implies maybe it's going to get a little spicy. How are you going to keep it civil?
Well, I think, you know, in this, we keep thinking about all this political violence and worry about the country. This is the way we should fight, right? We should have contests about solutions to the problems and let people weigh them and see them and talk to the people presenting them and then make a decision on which one's best. That's the way politics should work. Politics is the antidote to violence. Without politics, then there is truly no system other than who's stronger and who's more violent. And that's why it's important to have contests in a political way, and that's what we're trying to do.
So is San Diego going to get solved this weekend?
Yeah, we'll fix it. Yeah, we got it.
What panels are you most excited for?
Well, there's the city one. We've got a city council member who's going to present his vision for the future of the city, what he'd like to see. I'm tired of them arguing about like $3 million in Balboa Park or $4 million deficit here or there. I want to see them argue about like, how do we get the city that we want? How can we really be proud of this city? The mayor heard about it, decided he wanted to be on, and we've got somebody from the Writer Center, Amy Fawcett. So I think that'll be really interesting. We've got one on the electricity bills, so we got the highest rates in the country, and there's a real diversity of people presenting options about what they would do to lower those costs. Childcare is a big issue. That'll be there. The sewage crisis in Tijuana, on and on. There's a lot.
So much of what we cover is the nitty-gritty, the super granular. Why are you interested in those big picture ideas?
Well, those problems are like what we keep writing about, right? We keep talking about, you keep having shows about, we keep, you know, discussing the Tijuana sewage border. They've been talking about the crisis at the border with sewage for decades and decades, and there's been no progress. But I have never actually seen somebody lay out, well, this is what we need to do to solve it, and give people something to work towards. And so I'd like to see that kind of thing. I think that, you know, we're really good at focusing on problems, maybe too good. That's our whole, you get into Voice San Diego, you're like, oh boy, it's another dark day. But maybe we can shine some light on some stuff.
In this world of like TikToks and tweets, what is the value of this face-to-face time with your elected officials?
Well, that's the secret to local politics working. National politics is so hard because people are so far away that you can dehumanize them really easily. You can, you know, make up stories about them. You can make up stories about the truth or what. And local pierces through that because you can literally meet the people. You can see them. You can talk to them, you can see the potholes, or you can see the sinkholes, or you can see the climate, a lot of things. And so we're just taking advantage of that and making sure there's a day where everybody can come. Politics should be celebrated. Whenever somebody says something like, oh, I hate politics, or I hate politicians or something, that's the alternative. Politics is the alternative to something much worse. So we should be excited about it and celebrate it and, you know, get into it.
Hard to hate close up.
Yeah, exactly.
So, you know that famous axiom, all politics are local?
Yeah.
I've been thinking about that a lot, and I feel like that's been flipped on its head recently, where like all politics have become national.
Yeah, I never actually understood that as sentiment because it was so national in so many ways, yeah.
But do you feel like this is the day where we can really dig our teeth into the local issues?
Yeah, I mean, that's the stuff that we can not only feel the most, the roads, the fees, the state of our parks, all those things, but they're the things we can most impact. They're the things we can change the most. We can talk to people there was a big outcry about some of the ways they wanted to charge for parking at Balboa Park. They still charge for parking at Balboa Park, but because of the way that people got involved, they changed it. They made sure locals got a different experience, all that stuff. That's what being involved can do. Maybe it's not going to change the world or change things dramatically, but you can make a lot of difference just by speaking up.
How do those elected officials make electricity costs or water rates scintillating for people at home?
That'll be their challenge, not mine, right? Well, I think that it already is, right? The cost of living in San Diego is on so many people's minds that, anything that discusses what to do about them, I hope, is interesting. What people turn off on, they know about the fees, they know about the bills they get, and then sometimes the conversation is such a high level. But I think it's gotten so complex and so hard to follow that they just don't understand, they tune out a little bit. But that's what our moderators are going to be tasked with doing. No, say more about that, explain that better. And if people leave with just one or two, bits of better understanding about how their community works, then I've won. So.
One thing I love about participating in this day is it's a chance for people to see what we do, to see our thought processes and why we follow up or ask a certain question in real time. What's the value of having local journalists present this day? Yeah,
so I always tell my journalists, hey, you're not performers, you're not TV performers. Now you are, so I expect you to have a higher level.
I'm wary of that word, right?
No, but you know how to present. Exactly, you know how to present really well. But I tell them, these are all acts of journalism. Every interview, every presentation, every follow-up, those are acts of journalism. That's what this whole day is to see journalism be followed and processed. Every question that you'll ask is an act of journalism, and I'm excited to see it. So.
I remember there were a lot of students there last year as well, and that might be their first interaction with journalism in real life.
Yeah, we have the Aaron Price Fellows and a bunch of other volunteers there from across the region. I love watching them get involved, ask their questions. We have one question reserved for each of them in each session. So I think it'll be fun, and I just want them to get engaged, and it's fun to see.
What solutions do you think we need to hear? Big question.
Yeah. I really want to see the city one work. I want to see the mayor take it seriously and present, this is what we have to do. I know you're worried about your roads. I know you're worried about the fees. But if we do this, this, and this is where we can get. And I want Shani Lil Rivera to present a totally different version. And Amy Fawcett. And I want to see something that I can grab a hold of. And if it's just hey, everything's really good, we just got these few little things, that's going to be a bummer, And so, and if it's just hey, we need to raise all these taxes, but it's not clear what they're going to get in exchange, I think that's going to be hard. I think that's what the city's dealing with in particular, right? They're charging so many new fees, but people aren't seeing the benefit other than this scary, the deficit's not as bad or something. And that's tough. And I want to see people be proud of this community because there is so many special things here.
I just realized we've been sitting here talking for several minutes now. I don't know exactly how long. But we're probably inching closer to 10 minutes. And we haven't brought up partisan politics at all. We haven't said Democrats or Republicans. What do you make of that?
Well, local does pierce through that a little bit. There's
8.5.
Yeah.
8.5
okay,
minutes.
Got it. Yeah. Local, again, it's different. There's no Republican or Democrat way to fill a pothole. Now, there are
even in this day and age?
Yeah. Now, Prop 50, which you get to debate, that is pretty hard partisan. There's nothing other than partisan politics in that, right?
But that's one of the less hyper-local panels, right? That's statewide and really national implications.
And so we tried to make the panels diverse in that sense of ideological diversity because we wanted to make sure different solutions, because that's not our role. Our role is to be fair about the problems, but be super passionate about fair about the solutions, super passionate about the problems. Make sure people deal with them. And then we can let you guys decide what solution you like.
I had a news director at an internship who would start the meeting every day by saying, how are we going to make this town a better place?
Yeah, that's cool.
Feels like a whole day of doing that.
Yeah. Well, hopefully, no big deal.
Let's talk a little bit about the city. You're quite the city watchdog. What are you paying attention to right now? What is capturing your attention in terms of San Diego politics?
I think the most interesting city council meeting we've had in a long time happened this Tuesday, when they were discussing the water rate fees and they refused to pass them, the increase to the fees. And I think that was a moment that we're going to look back on maybe, because one of the city council members, Kent Lee, straight up called out the mayor and said, I believe you and your administration have lost the public's trust. Now, what does that mean? That he has to fire somebody or that he has to resign? What is he talking about? I don't know. I'm going to push him on that. But I think that they refused to raise those water rates, and there's some major consequences that could come from doing that. But they felt like they had reached a point that has gone too far. And I think that's a really interesting thing, because those water rates, there's very few things you just have to pay for in a city, and water is one of them. Water, trash, public safety. If you don't, or sewage too, if you don't do those things as a city, you got some big problems. Now, there's stuff on top of that you can get away with maybe, but those are the keys. And so they refuse to right now, and that's a big bet to, sort of change the discussion, and we'll see if they can.
Something I've been picking up on at city council meetings, and you've been here a lot longer than I have, so you can tell me if there's precedent to this, but it seems like two's a trend, and they've done it 3 times recently where they've kicked an item down the road, right?
Yeah.
They've said, oh, we'll come back to that. We're sending that back to staff. Is that something that always happens? Why are we seeing that so frequently in the last few weeks?
Yeah, we see that a lot. Anytime there's something really difficult, it's easiest to punt it. Now, what's been interesting about this city council is they've done things that are not politically popular. Raised the fees in Balboa Park for parking, raised the trash fee in a way that a lot of people felt was sort of deceptive, but they just felt like we had to get as much money in because there was so much a big deficit. There's a lot of these things happening that are difficult, and you always tell them, like, do difficult things. Well, that's the hardest possible thing to do because there's no benefit coming from it. There's no thing, and people are paying more for their user fees at parks, but the parks are still bad. There's still the ugly bathrooms and infrastructure that's crumbling, and so it's a long series of bad things and things that they'll haunt them as their political careers continue. But there's no real benefit from it, and I think it got to the point where it's a lot easier to punt those things now. But again, the water in particular, that's a dog that's not going to go away. They're going to have to deal with it.
Especially on these items that raise the cost of living, which runs contrary to what most of these candidates, or now council members, promise to do as candidates, right? Is the messaging from the city or the council members resonating about why they have to do this?
No, not at all. They're trying to say, well, look, it would be a lot worse if we didn't, which is not great. Like that's why I wanted to get them on the stage to talk about.
That's hypothetical.
Right. I don't want to hear like all these little things about how bad it could be. What do you have to do to get the city that you want? What can we do to be proud? Because you're not painting a vision that we're all heading towards. You're just painting a vision of, well, it could be worse, and that's just sad.
I do want to ask about homelessness, because leading up to last November, that was all we were hearing about, right? And it feels like those discussions have fallen by the wayside. Yeah. Is that a fair assessment?
I think that the acute emergency feeling that was existent of just the suffering and filth in the cities, it was so bad that it's gotten a little better, which I think people are taking a breath. But in many ways, it's shifted to the riverbeds. It's shifted to other places. They've done a better job of getting it out of people's sight, which is maybe what people really wanted. But the problem is still there and still seething. And now some resources nationally, federally, and statewide are being threatened, and it may get even worse. So it's still going to be there. It's never, it didn't go away. They didn't solve it. But it got a little better enough for them to be able to focus on a few other things, I guess.
So that we don't end on a sad note, it sounds like you do have a lot of hope. Yeah. And you want to give these elected officials a chance to show how they're leading the city in a direction that we can all be proud of. Yeah. Why is it important for them to share that vision?
People don't. Leadership is about, that's not necessarily seeing the future, but seeing what you need to do to get there. And I really think this community is begging for that. They need somebody other people to come up and say, like, hey, I don't know exactly what we need, what we're going to get to, but I do know that this and this and this are in our way, and we need to deal with them. We all need to deal with them. And that's a lot easier to do than to just list all the hard things you have to do, or why it's so hard to do that. That's what I'm so tired of with city leaders, is like, this is so hard, or this is the hardest thing. nobody needs to hear about how hard it is. They need to hear about a solution that they can maybe pitch in just a little bit of effort to. And then they know they're getting somewhere out of it. Maybe not clear like what that place looks like, but they know that there's a vision, there's somebody driving that ship, and it feels like it's not there right now. I'm sorry, that was supposed to be hopeful.
Most of it was.
Yeah.
I'll let you get away with it. Well, I'll see you on Saturday.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for being here.
Yeah.